Okay, in our next example, what we're going to do is add some usability to this form. Because this computer stats field set only makes sense if the user answers yes to "Do you own a computer?", we would want to show that section only if this was selected. And we can do that with an attribute called state. So let's go ahead and open up our next step file, which is number 6, which is called state attribute. And then go ahead and copy all of the code and paste it into your input.module file, overwriting everything that's there again, and save it. Okay, this file is identical to the previous one, except we've added these lines right here in our input more form function. All we've done is added the states attribute to the computer stats item in the form array. This states attribute tells the form what different sort of actions are associated with different states. So in this, what we're going to do is make this visible only if the input that's called computer has a value of yes. So here are the different parts to this. First is the state. In this case, we're making it visible. So this is the state which we're going to make it, not the state in which it begins. And we're going to make it visible if this item here and this element is a selector in jQuery. And what we're doing is taking an input and we're passing it an attribute and a value that that input should have. So what we can do is use the name that we assigned to it here. We assigned it the name computer, and we can use that here as the name, because if you look at the HTML of the input itself, the name is the same as what we assigned it in the form array. So we're taking this jQuery selector, and we'll cover jQuery selectors in another video, and we're assigning it in an array, and the array contains the state in which this item should be in order to trigger the state in our current field. So it's checking for a value of yes. And if the value is yes, then it will trigger the state. Okay, let's go ahead and save this and look at this in action so you can see it. Let's save it. I'm going to jump back to our form and refresh the page. Okay, now you see that our whole field set that we had added down here is missing. If we click yes, then it displays. If we click no, then it hides again. So a non-selected state or a no selected state triggers a hiding of that field set, whereas the yes shows it. So from here, you can use the state attribute to create a fairly complex dynamic form that displays even nested elements. So you select something and it creates a field set, and select something in there, and that in turn creates another field set. You can do a complex array of actions creating this form dynamically as you go through. One thing to keep in mind is that because this is all JavaScript jQuery based, that if you want to make your form usable without JavaScript, you need to keep that in mind and make sure there's a good fallback for that. So let's go ahead and jump back to the code. I want to point out a couple other things here. First of all, you'll notice that the states item is an array. So we could contain multiple states inside of this single state attribute. So one for visible, for example, and one for invisible. So if we wanted to make sure to hide this if some other element is checked, we could do that by adding another item to the states array. And then if you look at the state, there's also an array assigned to this. So we're checking for just one input, the state of that input, but we can have multiple parameters here. So if we wanted to check for this being a certain value and another item being a certain value, and then only at that point show this input, we could do that simply by adding another item to this array. And finally, there's an array being assigned to this selector, so we can choose multiple items here. So if we want it to not only to have a value of yes, but also to have some other attribute, we can assign that as well and pass that to the selector.